This is Sigmund Freud. Correction, Sigmund Freud. He's one of the most famous psychologists of all time, but more specifically, he's known to be the psychoanalyst, because, well, he's the pioneer and the founder of psychoanalysis. This was his home. He was born here in May 6th of 1856. Yeah, see? He was born in a place called Freibergen-Meichern, however you pronounce that, I definitely butchered that, which is in the Austrian Empire. Nowadays, though, it's simply known as Pre-Boer. This was apparently him as a kid. Both his parents, his mom and his dad, were both Galician Jewish. He was especially close with his mother, and I suppose you could say he was okay with his dad. He entered high school at the age of 9, and he graduated high school at the age of 17. Immediately, he went to go study law at the University of Vienna. Though he originally did want to study law, he would eventually change that into medicine. Later on, he would go work for the Vienna General Hospital. It's still there to this day. It even has its own Wikipedia page. This is where he started his medical career. Later, though, he quit his job and started his own general practice. He decided that he wanted to become famous. 2 reasons. Number 1, so he could marry Martha Bernice, because, well, her family was pretty famous. Number 2, so he can get a lot of cash, because since her family was pretty famous, he needed money to be able to marry her. As a result, he decided he would do something revolutionary. He would write a paper on the medical uses and benefits of cocaine. And no, I'm not joking here, he really did write about cocaine. He introduced Vienna to cocaine, and he expected pretty good results. He studied its properties, its white powder stuff. What he neglected to do so was he didn't realize it was pretty addictive. It wasn't until after his paper was published that they realized that cocaine was pretty addictive and had pretty much terrible benefits, except it was a pretty good anesthesia. It's pretty good anesthetic. It's pretty good anesthetic after like surgeries. So the patient would not know that the cocaine would have been used. Nowadays, though, it's like legal. Like Australia and New Zealand are the biggest users of cocaine. And it's mostly illegal in it's mostly illegal in all other countries, especially in the United States of America. Sigmund Freud would inevitably regret using cocaine. In fact, he would used to give them out as presents for little kids, and afterwards he realized that this has cost him a pretty big infamy, as well as a very expensive addiction. So he changed to psychology. He studied psychology, first of all, so he studied neurology. And as he was learning about neurology, he had this revelation. At the time, this is Victorian England we're talking about, he went back to one of his mentors and kind of enemies from university, and they talked with each other, mostly his mentors. Or when he was talking with his mentors, or his mentor had this famous patient. His mentor was treating a patient. Her name was apparently known as Anna Zero, because we obviously don't have access to her real name. His mentor just let Anna Zero talk about her traumas and things, and Sigmund Freud was hooked. Whereas his mentor was like, this isn't going to be a singer, this is going to be really unpopular. Sigmund Freud was hooked and tried his best to make this happen. What he did, though, was a typical psychology kind of place, where he would let his patients sit on a couch, but instead of the photo like this, they will be facing away. They'll be facing away from the psychologist. They'll be facing away from the psychologist, so that they could be more comfortable in revealing their darkest secrets. He would let them talk freely about pretty much everything. Let them talk about other taboo topics of Victorian England, such as sex, and especially sexual desires in kids. This worked, and he became the most famous psychoanalyst of all time, so it took a few years for people to realize that this guy was a genius. He published his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, and of course this was taboo, and it only sold 100 copies at the time of the publication, and his reviews were pretty terrible, because, this was taboo in England. But Sigmund Freud kept going on. He kept talking about psychoanalysis, and after finding a group of followers, and with that eventually expanded to pretty much everywhere in Europe, America, he became famous, and he became world-renowned psychoanalyst, and finally able to marry his sweetheart. He kept turning book after book, From all this to his patient, and he was able to help, cure World War I veterans of their PTSD. Although this is kind of highly debatable, as his treatment was, all right, do you have any trauma? No, you have trauma, and forcing people to remember fake traumas. But after that, he was diagnosed with mouth cancer because, he was a lifelong smoker. And he, with Nazi Germany on the rise, and with Hitler invading Austria, since he was technically a Jew, he was not allowed to, do his practices. His books were being burnt at the book burnings that the Nazis were pretty famous for. And Freud was stuck, except he had a way out. The only way he was able to get out was because of, several important people. Number one of his patients was Marie Bonaparte. Yeah, you heard it right, Bonaparte. And some guy named Anton Scharwald, who was apparently a die-hard Nazi, but was a student of one of Freud's friends, so took respect towards Freud. And when he realized that Freud was trying to get a way out, he just let him. He helped him find a way out. He was able to get exit visas for 16 of his family members, so he wasn't able to get any for his older sisters. And he came to London. He arrived in London in 1938. And barely a year later, he died on September 23rd of 1939. He had a pretty long life, and he will still be remembered as the psychoanalyst that we know and probably criticize today. Today, it's known and it was pretty known as normalized that you could just go ahead and poke fun at Sigmund Freud's own work. But you have to admit, he was influential, and he is the one who made lots of norms in psychoanalysis and helping treatments of mental patients. He helped mental patients be known to be not exactly insane, and that they pretty much have their own roots, though he had pretty wacky theories to do it that I will not go into here because, that's what the book Interpretation of Dreams is for. And that's pretty much about it. So he has a lot of controversy around him. He will still be remembered as the father of psychoanalysis. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Hunch on Sean. I hope to see you guys soon. Until next time, bye bye.